Perfect. So my name is Shobha. I am part of the Bangalore ISTD chapter for over a decade now. And I was also a student like you, and I think this is the 91st batch or 90th, 91st, right? I was part of the 68th batch. So that tells you how long back I was part of, our roles were switched. I was one of the students then. Currently, I work for Accenture. I'm AVP Learning and Leadership Development. And teaching is very close to my heart. And wherever I get an opportunity, I try interacting. And I think ISTD is one such platform which helps me not just share knowledge, but gain knowledge as well. Because there are so many of us. I think there are 35, 37. I think the number is going up. With so many of us on the call, so many of you sharing your experiences, I'm sure there's so much that I will also learn from all of you. I think that's how I would want all my sessions to be. We would learn from each other. I would want it to be very interactive. Talk to me about what real life issues you face during evaluation in training in your workplace. If you're new to training, learn from the experiences around you. I'm sure, with 35 people, with even if you say that 10 years of experience, you have 50 years of experience already, and you can add my 20. So you have a lot of experienced people on this call, and let's leverage. Is my voice breaking for everyone? I just see a note.
Ma'am, for me, it's breaking. I just wanted to check with everyone
Others,
else.
can you?
It's breaking, ma'am.
There is a little fluctuation in your voice. It's not that clear.
Okay, will you just give me a minute to switch the band network?
Yes,
Sure, ma'am.
sure.
As I do that, why don't you all put in chat how you're feeling? I'm somebody who loves GIFs. Why don't you all share GIFs and tell me how are you all feeling on this bright Sunday morning?
Excellent, ma'am. It's good to be back. Good to see everybody around. In fact, the last session went very well. We get to know each other. It was a very interactive class. Hats off to people like Shivani, Kamna, and the other people. It was a good session. So we are expecting the same. Let's have a lot of interaction now. Let's see.
Thank you, Ricky, sir.
Is
We
my
always learn from
audio
you.
back?
Ma'am,
Thank
still
you.
breaking for me.
कोई बात नहीं, अभी ऐसे ही चला लेते हैं यार, बाद में ठीक हो जाएगा। पिक्चर जैम हो गया।
Okay, I think I'm back this time. Is my audio any better?
Yes, ma'am, it's better now. We can
It's
continue.
better now. Yeah.
Perfect. I think I heard some of you speak about how excited you are to be back. I saw something on the chat as well. Good to have you all back, and I'm excited to be facilitating this subject. And what is the subject that we are going to talk about? Anybody knows, remembers?
Training evaluation, ma'am.
Correct. Training, measurement, and evaluation.
Measurement evaluation, yeah.
Perfect. So that's the subject that we're going to cover. And and Ricky, I think, as you rightly said, we will make it interactive. I would appreciate if all of you share your thoughts, share your experiences, share real life challenges that you're facing, so we as a group can solve it. On that note, let's get started. And I would want to know, maybe with show of hands, how many of you are new to training? And if you can, by show of your hands, somebody who's new to training. One, Apurva is new, okay. The others, so out of the 45 people we have, the rest of you are all new or no? I think I see some hands raised now. Okay, that's good. So not a big number. Good. So it's not a big number. Okay, let me bring up my screen. I think I would need Gurvinder because I joined back. I don't think I'm able to share my screen. I'll have to call him. Is Gurvinder on the call? No, I guess.
I think you're on mute, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, I was on mute because I was talking to Gurvinder, asking him to give me the host access back. I think he will join back. So in the meantime, I think, yes. So what I would want to start with is talking about what is the whole training. I think most of you said you are from training. I think that gives me a good start to talk about training cycle. How do we all understand what training cycle is? Maybe if one or two of you could just go off mute and talk about what training cycle is for the benefit of those who are new. And I'm sure you might have covered this in your last semester as well. But it would, it would be great if one or two of you could share how a training life cycle looks like.
Ma'am, can I start?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. So, ma'am, training cycle is all about, first of all, analyzing the need for the training or the training program we are designing. Then, understanding that like, how are we going to convey? So, analyzing the need, then designing. Then, uske baad, developing how we are going to present it to the candidates or to the participants over there. If there are any external resources also involved, then after that, of course, then implementing, and then after that evaluating. But evaluation can also be pre-training and post-training or intermediate training evaluations as well. So those are the measures and the impact, that how it is going, and also have the check in between. If there's any feedback, so we can just implement it as.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing, Shivani. Anybody else?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. I think we could hear you. So thank you for sharing, Shivani. Anybody else who would like to add? I see some of you have joined us recently, and I think I see. So for those of you, this is the syllabus that we have for this semester. And what we had started off with was understanding the training life cycle, and Shivani just took us through it. Anybody else with that image now in front of you would like to take another stab at it? Somebody who doesn't know training, yeah. Ajal, I heard that you are new to the field of training. Would you want to take a stab at it, and maybe looking at this, would you be able to explain your understanding of how a training life cycle looks like?
Ma'am, I would like to add.
Sure,
Apurva
Apurva,
this side.
please go ahead.
Yeah. So, in my organization, we have recently started the training. So, I'm explaining as per my little experience. So, the first step is we have identified the skill gap matrix as per their job role, what is their job role, and what they're supposed to do. So, we have identified that gap. Then we have checked each employee where they are lacking, in which areas they are lacking. So started from the competency development, then analyzing where are the gaps. Then it is the process of identifying the needs basically. So then we have designed certain modules which will help the sales people to do the proper sales training and improve the productivity. Then we have developed the training ki what will be the soft skill trainings, what will be the functional trainings, and it will be online, or it will be few sessions will be offline. So modes of the training, we have developed the content as per that, and who is going to deliver that training, and when they are going to deliver the training, so that it won't hamper the productivity of the current employees. So in the delivery of training, if we have developed the content and planned phase wise, and we have informed everyone object about the objectives of the training. Then we have delivered it on soft on both sides, like classroom trainings and the online trainings. And after that, we have like what you have learned, how you gonna apply that. We have also mentioned that. So the apply of training is what you have learned is when you are gonna apply to your day-to-day tasks. And then evaluation of training after, once they have completed 1 month or 2 months, then we are continuously checking their productivity, ki how this training helped them in achieving their targets. What is the difference, where they are like they are now creating a better number of dealers, distributors, new market expansion plus revenue generation is also increased. So by this way we have evaluated the training. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing, Apurva. Anybody else who would like to add in or share their experiences?
Good morning, madam. This is Venkatraman. Can I
Good
add
morning,
some value?
Venkatraman. Please, definitely.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for the great opportunity this morning. Training, we do conduct training in three different methodologies. One is that the need identification, TNI, and the ability level. Training need for that particular role and ability level. The gaps, we will start the training. Second is individual development plan. Based on the, I wanted to develop myself in this particular area. Then those will come into a training. Third thing is the intervention. Business is facing certain challenges. How we are going to address those challenges? How the training, like learning and development department is going to contribute for that matter. So this is how we will start a need identification. Then accordingly, suppose TNI, AL and other ITP, this will run on a already tailored training which is available. But for the intervention, we need to design it. It may consist of many modules in it. Maybe certain behavioral pattern to be improved, certain functional expertise to be improved, or operating system to be improved. Like that, many things may come up over there. Then we will develop that modules and we'll start delivering the training. Each and every module, once after the module, we believe that the learning, keeping the learners in the center and keeping the learners in mind, the content to be developed and the content to be delivered. Whether we have done it or not, that we need to verify over there. Once after the every module we do, evaluate the participant viewpoint, their understanding, their ability to cope up and follow those things. And once after sometimes 2-3 modules, suppose if a training intervention is consist of 10 modules, after 3 modules, we will create a hype. From the 3 modules, what is that you have done it to a business level. We will be looking at Kirkpatrick's level 3. So what kind of implementation they have started doing it. Then finally, when we are completing the entire module, what kind of a benefit it has brought into a business? What kind of money matter that it brought in? This is how we do a cycle. Thank you so much for the great opportunity. So lovely to be in 91st batch.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think it was good. You made my job easy. You really explained it well and set the context. Thank you so much, Venkatraman, sir. So anybody else would like to add? And I think pretty much we have understood. I think you did pretty well last semester, and I think most of you understand the training life cycle. And it's based on your experience, based on your learning. Unless anybody else has anything to add, we can move on. Okay, looks like yeah, we can move on. So next question to you all is, I'm sure when we talk about training, measurement and evaluation, and the first thing that comes to my mind, or at least what came to my mind, was the question as to what.
Your voice is breaking, ma'am.
Again, it's breaking.
Yeah.
Echoing as well.
Yeah, echo is also coming. If you have a headphones or something, the voice will be clear, I think.
It's usually that Murphy's law, when things go wrong, everything starts going wrong. Just give me a minute. Let me try something else. Just give me a minute. I'm so sorry about this.
think it was better now.
It's okay, ma'am. There might be some
Better?
network issue.
Network
better.
issue, it could be, madam.
Okay, is it any better? Do I continue or do I try something else?
Yeah, this is okay, madam.
This is okay, ma'am. You can continue. We'll let you know once it's breaking again.
I don't prefer that. Let me try joining from my phone. That usually should work. I don't see it being an issue any further, but let's check. Do let me know. Keep me honest. If you think you're not able to hear me, let me know, please. Okay. So yes, I think the next question that I have for you, and especially because of the subject that we have, the next question that you have is
मैम आप अपना कैमरा स्विच ऑफ कर लीजिए, मे बी शायद थोड़ा कनेक्टिविटी इम्प्रूव हो जाए.
He got disconnected, I think.
I think I got disconnected again. Okay, I think this time it should be better. Let's keep trying. Okay, do you all see my screen? Yes. So let's talk about measurement and evaluation. What is measurement? And is there any difference? Can we use measurement and evaluation together? Or do you see that there is any difference between the two terms?
There is a difference between these two terms.
Okay, and what would that be? Let's start with measurement. What is measurement?
Ma'am, measurement is the parameters on the basis of we measure something. The parameters, I can say.
Thank you, Kajal. You're right. Anybody would like to add to it?
May I?
Yes, Vimal, and maybe I will go with Vimal, and I think Vimal, you were speaking
Yes, ma'am.
something.
Can I add to it?
Yeah, Rohit, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Can we mute Rohit?
So, when we're talking about measurement, we are talking about quantifying something. And on the basis of that, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Please go ahead.
Shobha, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Rohit. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I was saying, when we measure something, it's about quantifying something. Sure, I'll start again. So when we're talking about measurement, we're talking about quantifying something. So usually in training evaluation, it would mean, collecting data. So say, for example, at the end of a session, I check how many people have completed the course. I'm measuring to check what is my completion rate. Based on this data, I form my evaluation. That is, I form my judgment if something has been effective. 90% versus 60% completing training. So measurement is about
Please continue. Did we lose Rohit? Or is it just me again?
Went on mute, it seems so.
Or maybe somebody must have muted everybody. Rohit, you have to unmute. I think somebody muted everyone.
Can I try, ma'am?
no, I just okay. So I'm not sure how much of what I said you heard. Should I repeat what I just said?
At the end, you were just the last 1 minute we might have lost. Otherwise, we could hear you.
Rohit, you were talking about forming a judgment while evaluating.
Okay, so I'll just sum it up. Yeah, so in short, I'll just keep it in short in one sentence. Measurement is about quantifying something, and
It's like, I think somebody again muted everyone. Rohit, you'll have to again unmute yourself. I'm so sorry about this. It's not you.
I'm not.
Both my hands are free.
All right. Let me check. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes.
Yes, you're clear.
Okay, so I'll sum up what I just said. I'll just sum up what I said without taking too much of your time. Sure. So what I said was measurement is about quantifying something, and evaluation is about making a judgment based on the.
Again, we lost you, Rohit. It just says when you said based on, we lost you. I don't know. I think.
Start with evaluation. Please start with evaluation rather than measurement.
We again lose people. I don't know. This is really frustrating. I'm so sorry, people. But are you able to hear me?
Ma'am, there is no clear voice from your side also.
Yes, ma'am, it's breaking.
I don't know what the issue is. I thought it was just me, but then I realized that most of you are not able to speak.
Can we ज़्यादा problem हो रही है, I guess.
Can we let
Network
me switch off my video? Let's see if this is any better. Let's all switch off our videos if that helps. Maybe let's see if it was an issue with if it helps our band.
Yes, ma'am. Now you are clearly audible.
Ma'am, now your voice is clear now.
Okay. So I think thank you, Rohit. I know you made multiple attempts to, but I think we did understand, and I think what you said is absolutely right. So, so on that note, let's continue to move on, and we'll keep it very brief. What I would want to focus is, and as you rightly said, measurement is the quantification of data. It's assigning numerical values to performance, skills, or knowledge. It can be physical measurement or it can be mental measurement. When you say physical, it is measurement of an object which materially exists. And mental measurement is if it's not physical, any psychological measurement, it's not defined in absolute terms, it's rather relative. It's not measured with the help of any instrument like the tape or the scale you see on the screen, but on the basis of individuals' responses and critical observation. So that said, I think some of you were speaking of the differences, but here are some of the differences on the screen. Maybe can one of you give me an example of the difference between the two? So if you see, evaluation is quantitative description plus qualitative description, and also you make a judgment based on it. And that's the value judgment. When you put together, it is evaluation. Measurement is just calculating the data, whether it is physical or mental, but you just get the data. But when you make judgments based on it, that becomes evaluation. Any questions at this point, or anybody would like to share an example to help us understand this better?
Can I try?
Please go ahead.
So it's a basic, very simple example. The report cards that we used to get in our school days is that comes top of my mind. The marks that we used to get is the measurement of each the subject of how what we have got, and the subsequent like one-liner that we used to get from the teachers saying that this needs to be improved and this is the observations that the student has, and this is where they are lagging is what I believe is the evaluation.
Perfect.
And
I think, yeah.
the discussion of also that we used to have of that needs to be improved, there's this gap. So I think that is that evaluation.
I think that was very nice, very well put, Shali.
So I think that is that evaluation.
Is there a lag in my
Can I
voice, or
try
was
once
somebody
again
else
if you can
speaking?
hear me?
Yes, Rohit, we can hear you.
Rohit sir, I
Okay.
believe that
So,
on your end there is
I'd
a
like to give an
echo.
example, say from a customer service training, that I usually conduct. You know what? I will log out and log in, if that's okay.
Sure. So we'll wait for Rohit to log off, log in, and then share his thoughts. In the meantime, I have an example here which I would want you to look at. So there are a couple of attributes if you see on the screen. This is an example. Just go through it and tell me how would you evaluate? So this is a student of 5th standard, and what is the weight you see? The measurement is there. There is evaluation, which is fat, but then you will not be able to till I give you. And if you ask me, okay, now if you read this, you will understand why is somebody considered fat. So 42 kgs, what tells you 42 kgs is fat? So you'll have to have a legend for evaluation. So when you say, and I think in the previous example about the report card, till somebody tells you you need to know what is A grade, B grade, or how is your performance from good to bad. You need to be able to have that legend to be able to come to a conclusion. And that's very important in evaluation. Here you say 38 to 48 is considered as a fat. If you talk about the second parameter, which is running speed, again, it's categorized into 3 parts. 50 seconds is fast, 50 to 75 is average, and more than 75 is slow. So, and that's where you come to a judgment that this student is fast.
Yeah, actually, I can only able to see the measurement and evaluation comparison slide. Not sure that slide had changed.
No, there is nothing changed. You see the text below. I'm just talking about the text that is there below. I'm saying that the evaluation, when you say somebody is fat, in this case, the student is fat. Why is the student fat? Because we have these categories. 18 to 28 kgs is considered as thin. 28 to 38 is average. 38 to 48 is fat. And because his weight is 42, he is fat. I'm just saying that when you evaluate, you need to have these parameters. You need to have a legend which will help you come to that. Am I audible? Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Again, my audio is
Yes.
breaking.
Ma'am, it's
Yes, ma'am.
breaking for me.
Okay, let me see which is the network I'm using. Okay, now somebody is saying we can hear you. Okay, so I'm a little confused whether it is audible or not. Can we move on? Can one of you confirm?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
Yes,
the
you're
thing
audible.
is that you're audible, but in between, like some words or something, there is a little bit of lag, or like it's breaking somewhere. But we can continue as of now, I believe.
So I see that Rohit is back. Rohit, would you like to add?
Yep. So, first things first, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, now it's
Okay, fine.
perfect.
I
All right,
think
so,
Shivani ma'am, let's restart once because some technical issues there. Let's once leave the meet and then rejoin again all. Thank you.
Do you all want to do that? Leave and join back?
I don't think it will be required. We are
Ma'am,
good
it
enough.
won't be
No need.
required. The
Yes, yes.
network is
It's not required, I think. Not needed.
Okay, Rohit, then we're all yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, so, before I dropped off, we are talking about measurement and evaluation. So I'll just quote an example from a customer service training that I usually conduct. So, say when we talk about measurement, before the training, employees take a test. And using this test, we assess their current knowledge, say, of customer service principles. After the training, they take another test to measure improvement. Now, what we do here is we compare the scores from both the tests. This would give us, quantitative data. Say, for example, an employee scored 60% before the training and 90% after. So here's how we've measured. Now, based on this measurement, we would evaluate. So say I send this data across to, my training team. The training team then analyzes the test scores and then say they deduce that, say, for example, 90% of participants improved by 15 to 20%. In addition, they would also get qualitative data from the employees' managers to see if, they've been able to apply this at work and if they've seen any kind of improvement in customer interaction. And based on these findings, we can then conclude that, training was effective, or if it wasn't, and then decide whether to modify or expand or repeat this training in the future. So, this measurement would give numbers, and evaluation will help interpret those numbers and understand what they mean and how it impacts business performance.
Thank you for summing it up, Rohit. So so as a closing statement, measurement, I think I put the same on the chat. Measurement is raw data. Evaluation gives meaning and helps in decision making. Are we all aligned?
Yes, very much.
Okay, perfect. So now that we have this understanding, because many a times this is where I'm sure so with that, let's move on to the next piece, which is training evaluation. So I think I wouldn't spend too much time. We've all understood the training evaluation. It's the process of collecting information and using that information to improve your training. And when we were discussing training life cycle, I had this question for all of you. When do you bring in evaluation? I know in the training cycle, it was towards the end. So do we do training evaluation at the end, or at what time, at what stage do we bring in training evaluation?
I think if I can share from my experience, so we do evaluation even though from the beginning of the training program as well, but it could be like a prerequisite, setting some pre-questionnaire to understand what's the level of a participant, and then followed by, once the training intervention is done, then the complete using the Kirkpatrick model over there, and then the overall evaluation, which includes your reaction behaviors as well as the overall learning from the participants as well. So that leads to the end of the session.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yep, I think you can have summative evaluation, and you can also have formative evaluation. Formative during the training and summative at the end of the training.
Okay. So it's during the training, end of the training. Anybody else?
Ma'am, before any training, I conduct pre-training assessment so I can understand my participant understanding about the topic. And during the session, sometime I take test that how they take the session, and after the session, I conduct the post-training evaluation.
Okay. You're talking about pre-training, post-training. Okay.
And during training
and
session.
during also. Okay.
And just to add, we do the pre and post. We also do, depending on the type of training, you might also want to evaluate the effectiveness, say post 3 months or 6 months of the training program, to check on the job impact.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's right. I just have a little different view. I think I think, evaluations should start when we are creating a training program, even before. So what you're saying is the stages at which you will evaluate, but the whole process when we design the objective of a training program, we should also design then and there. How will you evaluate at the beginning, at the middle, or during the training, at the end? So I think it is a continuous process. It should start ideally when you are designing, even at the start of the program. You should only when you will know. How will you know whether you're reaching your objectives of the training or not? So when you have these parameters that this is how I will evaluate, and this will tell me whether I've reached the objectives of my training or not. So it's a continuous process. It happens at all stages. Yes, Kamna, I think you're I agree with you. So that's how training, and many of us do it as an afterthought. We, after the training is done, we think of the feedback form which gives us. But many of you spoke about doing it before, doing it during the training program also, which is a very good practice. So, and why do we need to do the training? Or, there are two main reasons why training programs are evaluated. One is for improvement. Evaluation helps us identify the strengths and weaknesses in the program itself. So this can be anything from the content and the delivery style to the materials and to the assessments used. So by understanding what's working and what's not working, trainers can make adjustments to improve the program's effectiveness for future participants. And also, I think accountability is important. Training programs, many times, at least, they're very expensive investments in terms of not just money, but time as well. So evaluation provides evidence to show whether the training is achieving its intended goals, whether it's delivering the return on that investment. And this can be an important metric for you when you justify the training budget to your stakeholders, to your management. It helps us ensure that training programs are worthwhile and meeting their objectives. And that's where it's very important. I would strongly recommend never have a training program without doing an evaluation. And don't just stop with immediately after the session, the feedback form that you do, don't stop at that. It has to, evaluation is a continue, it has to go beyond that as well. And how can it go beyond that is something we will discuss in maybe today's class or the coming few classes. Any questions at this point, or anything that any of you would like to share? I'm assuming the audio issue is resolved. Okay, no questions at this point. Very good. Thank you for sharing that, Shivani. Let's move on and talk about the stages. And I think these are the stages which you've already spoken about. Some of you did speak about. So there is pre-training evaluation, then there is during the training, there is end program and post-training. So as most of us will quickly move on to the so that in case you have any experience to share, I'll take a pause here with pre-training. Tell me, how do you do pre-training evaluation? Just to set the context, pre-training is assessing the needs and objectives of the training program before you start the training. Somebody was talking of questionnaires. So you identify the target audience, their learning preference, and then you understand what their current competencies are. You know what is it that you want them to do, and the gap is your pre-training. Then you know that these are the topics you should focus on. So now that we have this understanding, maybe based on how you all do it in your organizations, if some of you could share either on chat or by unmuting yourself, how is it that you do pre-training evaluation?
According to me, pre-training evaluation starts from your performances. What we used to do was looking at the cycle. There is a cycle for sales, for example. So whatever has been done through the past cycle, the performances come. So the evaluation starts from that stage only. And then we look at that what is there which is lacking. And, the entire feedback, the entire performances, adds a data. And that data goes for the next training, what to do, what not to do. And that's the way we start.
Thank you. Yes, well said. Others, I think, Amna, I see your hand is raised.
Right. Yeah. So before I start, I would like to give a little bit background, which field I am in. I'm from outdoor education field. So I'm not from corporate L&D and T&D. So what we do is the schools or corporates, they come to us and we do the life skills training like leadership, team building, and other like team bonding trainings for them. So I would like to give example of the school which we have tied up for a long time, and every year they come and we do 7 days, 10 days camping or outdoor training for them. So in the pre-training evaluation, we have created, based on their age group, based on their needs in their age, we have created certain life skills that they really need at that time, and then we do prepare program or according to that, based on how what should be the level of challenge in terms of physical, emotional they should get to achieve those results. That what we do pre-training, and during the training, what I was trying to say way back, that during the training we keep doing evaluation whether all the participants are meeting that parameters or no, and we keep evaluating through the facilitation, and at the end we do certain um, evaluation form for them, that how do they rate themselves. So that gives us, again, a new parameter for that age group for the next time when they come. So that's the way we do. Thank you.
Thanks, Kamna. The evaluation forms are all hard copies, or do you do it using some tool?
Yeah, so I'm from Outward Bound, and it's a international organization in outdoor education. So we have our own form. It's called OBOS, Outward Bound Outcome Survey. So based on those survey, because Outward Bound has their own 5 parameters to judge on, and then we evaluate, asking them the question. And it's overall, I mean, overall world we use it, and then we can also see whether those parameters are getting achieved from all over the world in different 56 schools, and what parameters are missing, so we can change in our activity, we can change in our tools that we give them to achieve more next time.
Sharing, so you have a personalized, customized tool. Okay, anybody else who would like to share?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Also, like before this, I was in an NGO. So where they used to, before they used to start training and teaching them English, they used to take their test, and on the base of the scores that they used to get, they used to divide the batch. Like it would be the basic level batch, and this would be the intermediate level batch because these students got good scores. It also happens in the coaching centers, like where JE exams and NEET exams are being taught. So they first take the pre-evaluation test and then separate the batch accordingly, and then train the batch which has got highest scores separately, and those who are not getting these much good scores, so different teachers are given to them, so extra help could be given to such students, those who are not scoring very well. So yes.
And what tools do you use? What kind of is it an assessment that you do, and is it something that you have of your own, or do you leverage something from the net, like Google or Teams?
Yeah, so there are various websites from where we can directly find, test. So it would be listening, reading, and writing assessment. So once you give the test, and you automatically get the scores. And if in case of again JEE mains also, they have their own, websites and their own exams. So when students are giving exams online, and after the exams, they get the result, and on the base of that result, they separate the students accordingly.
You are from the education industry, Shobha?
Yes. I'm from education industry. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? So yes, so I think needs assessment. So pre-training involves conducting surveys. It's basically to understand the needs. You do interviews. It's not just the surveys. You also do interviews. It could be talking to the managers, talking to the department heads. If it is academia, then you talk to the HOD, you talk to the students, you talk to the employees. So it depends on, it depends on which background you are from. But yeah, focus group discussions, yes. You have all these different ways to gather within the organization. You find out, and you review the organizational goals also. It's not just surveys or interviews, but you also review what the organizational goals are. What are the objectives to determine the skill and knowledge needed to achieve them? So if the organization is moving, let's say there is a shift and there are new objectives or existing objectives, so what is it that you need to do to help the organization? So it's a holistic view. You also analyze the performance data and feedback from previous training programs to identify recurring issues or areas of development. So it's not just one way. We take different ways. We take different approaches to figure out how to do this pre-training evaluation. Once we know, and how do you get the target audience for analysis? We identify the demographics, job roles, experience levels of the target audience for the training program. They determine the preferred learning style, the preference the participants have, and how do we find that again through surveys and assessments. So earlier, I think earlier when we would, what are the different preferences that an adult learn, or how do we, if one of you could talk about it. What are the preferred learning styles of people? What are the different kinds of learners we have? Again, my voice is echoing. Okay, let me go off camera. What are the different kinds of learners we have?
Can I?
Go ahead, Rohit.
Yep. So we have visual learners, we have auditory learners, we have kinesthetic learners. So these are the three types that we have. And then some prefer, reading and writing as well.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you for sharing. So earlier what we would do, or the preference was that, in a training program, it would help if you knew the large group is auditory learner, or, you knew, and, we could cater to that. But then over a period of time, it was always a mixed group. So what we did was the learning program, we said, should have all of these. It should cater to all of these groups. And okay, yeah, Kamna, your hand is raised. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so basically in our field, we follow Kolb learning style, which includes diverging, where they feel and they watch, and in that way they learn. Assimilating, where they watch and then they reflect on. Then converging, where they actually do and then reflect on. And where accommodating, where they do and reflect. And then doing the next thing. So this major thing which we consider while preparing a program or doing it.
Thank you for sharing. I think somebody has put LSRW also, which is
Yes,
listening, speaking,
ma'am, this is
reading,
Om
and
Shukla.
yes, sir.
Regarding that question, I think these are learning style that cold cycle and kinesthetic, audio and visual, auditory and visual. The question is, I think, what type of learners are there? I think kind of learners like slow learner, mediocres, and fast learner, excellent learner, like that. So I think question is different, ma'am.
No, I think what people have there are slow learners also, but I think what I was referring to was the learning styles. Maybe I didn't
Yeah,
bring that
yeah.
across.
Okay. Then it's okay, ma'am. Learning style is that's okay.
Correct. So maybe, yeah, thank you. But thank you for adding that home and bringing that up. So the reason I brought that up was when earlier they were, and I think over the years you would have seen that transition. Earlier it used to be just what you want people to learn. If you want, it had to be only PPT. But then we started understanding the learning styles of the people, and we said a learning program has to cater to different kinds of needs. So there were activities that they were supposed to do. There was something for them to read. There was something for them to write. But what is the current transition? Do you see a change in that shift? Do you see a shift in that now
Yeah.
with AI? What is the shift?
Mostly it's experiential. It's moving towards experiential learning. So where by any chance, online, offline, if they are involved physically, even on mental level, doing some exercise and then reflect on.
Okay, it is. What else?
I think it's more of, self-paced digital learning.
You're right. I think it's more customized now. Earlier, you were forced to give people what they wanted, what you had with you. But then with AI and everything, people, if you want to, I saw a link where, you can just put the CBSE books that you have and then it'll teach you the way you could just ask questions. So learner has the flexibility today to choose what they want to learn, how they want to learn as well. If they want to read, you just take a book and say, you can make it into an audio book. Maybe 5 years back, 10 years back, that was not an option. But today, you can listen to the books, you have audibles, and everything is at your fingertips. So, unlike before, everything is available to the learner at their fingertips. They can choose, they can customize the way they want to learn. Is that not true? Have you experienced that shift?
Very true, ma'am.
Very
Yes,
true,
ma'am.
ma'am.
And I
So
think we
we
need
have
to understand that there is that shift. Sorry, somebody was speaking. Please go ahead.
yes,
ma'am.
Shobha. So
I just
basically, we've moved from the traditional format. Now we are more of into the on-demand personalization or hyper-personalization. So we have moved into the era of Netflix of learning, where the audience tells you, don't tell me what I need to learn. I know what I need to learn, how I need to learn, and when I need to learn. So
Very
that's
true.
the story.
Well said. I like the Netflix bit. But yes, so that's the shift that has come, and that's where we also need to adapt from the learning. Earlier the mandatory thing that this is how you need to learn doesn't work anymore. If you don't give them what they want, they will figure out a way to learn the way they want. I think we also need to adapt and be flexible with our approaches to learning. So I think that's the shift. Many a times we haven't, I don't know if all of us have been able to make that shift. We know that learners' preference has shifted. We know the technology has, but are we from the learning team? Have we made that shift? Is a question that I would want to leave you all with. That's for you all to think about and see if you have made that pivot. Atira, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity, ma'am. Ma'am, I just yeah.
Santosh, if you
Am I
could go
audible,
on
ma'am?
mute. Yeah, Atira, go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity, ma'am. I just want to add, like nowadays, colleges are also facing this challenge. So they have adopted like the 5 years, or they can go like they can do if they want, they can work for that, and they are willing to do like according to that. So like they are also trying to adopt to the new situations, or because facing the Gen Zs or the new generation which they are in order to tackle the new generation. So that's
Yes, I think you're right. Thanks for sharing that, Atira. Anybody else? Anything on the chat? Let me quickly check. Learning has been democratized, which is very right. That way, I think with all the things that we discussed, so it's very clear that we as a team, we as a whole training fraternity needs to make that pivot. And there are a lot of resources available to us. There is benchmarking research, industry standards, best practices related to training. There are a lot of articles that are there. We just have to look for it to see. And I think these platforms like these also help. If you're not speaking, please go on mute, Santosh. I think it will be very difficult. Yes. So I think it is important that we make use. I think I was talking of this platform here, about 60 of us coming from different industries, different places. We sharing our experiences. We understand the best practices that's happening all around us. And I think incorporate lessons learned, successful practices from previous training programs or external sources to inform the design, and make that change to when you design the new training program. Stakeholder consultation is very important, I think, when you do this when you are at the pre-evaluation stage, when you find out, involve key stakeholders, including senior leadership. It could be, and it could be participants also. So I think, yeah. So apart from participants, include the stakeholders. It could be subject matter experts. It could be your department leads. It could be anybody. Seek inputs and feedback regarding the training needs. What has their experience been with their team? Why do they think they need that? It doesn't have to be always a formal form that you share or a mail that you share. Based on my experience, what I've realized is even small coffee chats that you have with people helps, goes a long way. What I do personally is I have these questions always ready. So when I see a leader, or when I get that FaceTime with them, I make use of asking them these questions regarding their teams. What are the new skills that they see that are coming up and they would want the team to focus on? Because you very rarely get the FaceTime with your leaders. And when you get it, if you're fortunate, you have enough time, that's different. In case you don't, then having these questions in your kitty helps you, because these conversations give you an idea. They may not have the bandwidth to fill a detailed form for you or get on a call with you for 30 minutes. But whenever you get these 5 minutes time or 10 minutes time, just ask these pertinent questions, which will give you an insight. So having all this information will help you when you design a program, because it's more customized, not just for the participant from their learning perspective, but also from the organization's perspective. You can do a value add. You can add things which you see the skills that the participant will need in the next 6 months. They may not need, but you have spoken to your leader and you know that this is something that there is a focus going to be on. So you are prepping them for something that's coming up soon. So that's where these conversations would help, and pre-training comes into becomes very important. Any thoughts before we move on? Okay, so let's move on to during the training. So as I think somebody was mentioning about how do we evaluate the training as it's happening. So when you conduct a training evaluation while the training is happening, it's also known as real time or concurrent evaluation. It's essential to gather feedback and assess the effectiveness of training program as it unfolds. And there are different ways of doing it. Uh, it could be immediate feedback mechanism. So you have you can implement real-time feedback with online surveys. Maybe I could just do it here as a poll, right? As you are doing the session, I'm sure Zoom and other platforms offer a poll. I can just go and set up a poll and say, how do you like the session so far? It's very immediate. It's very real time. And if I know you're saying half of you say yes, and there is 50% which says no, I know in the next 30 minutes or whatever is the time that is left, I have to do something different. So that's very immediate and it's very useful, especially when you are facilitating, to check the pulse, to know how the participants are feeling. It's very important. But it's important to ask the right kind of questions too. Many a times, how many of us do this? Okay, let's take the other route. How many of us take immediate mechanism? How many of us use on the spot feedback kind of a thing, these polls? How many of us do that?
We do it for the immediate, for example, the training is happening today. And then for the next training also, the evaluation and the feedback has been taken and it is implemented immediately.
Okay, now do you do it real time? If the session is happening, do you do it then?
Yes, my trainers are, specifically told to do that because, these are the feedbacks which you get immediately and that should be done because you can't wait for the next thing to happen, it takes a lot of time. And the pace things are happening around, you can't wait. So they are supposed to do that.
Okay, very nice. Others? How many of you take real-time feedback?
Ma'am, while doing the session, we will be able to assess like whether they are engaged or not. So like we will be able to take plan B also if the plan A is not working. So that to make the participants more interactive during the session.
Correct. And
Is
that's where
that
it's very important. Yes. So if you don't, if the plan A is not working, then you move to plan B. And if that is, so that's where you will know whether to move to plan B. See here now I have about 60 people on the call and we are discussing what if it's not adding value. If I tried actually setting up a poll, but I think I'm not able to access it. Otherwise, I would have shown you how a real-time poll, when you ask questions and if half of you say, then I know I have to switch something, I have to change my style to do something different. And that's how beneficial it is. Many times it's a hesitation. What if you suddenly say that you don't like the session right now? What do I do? How do I make that pivot? If I have plan B in place, then I'm good. What if I don't have plan B in place? And asking these questions will put me in an uncomfortable situation. It might put the participants also in an uncomfortable situation. With that hesitation, not many of us pick that choice of doing the poll. But I think it's always good to do it because it helps you make that pivot and it also helps you plan ahead. So you should always have plan B and C. You should anticipate what if things don't go well. This is how I would do it, or this is how I would make in the difference or bring in the difference.
See,
And ma'am, I just want to add one more thing. Like during the session itself, we can make use this AI tools in order to do these polls and all, so that like we'll be getting time, or like if we don't have plan B also, we'll be getting time to switch like what is their intention, and then we can bring it up during the session. So like they will be engaged in by while using the AI tools and all, and we will get the correct results also.
Yes, perfect. Yes. Let's use the technology to its best. And I think, yes, I totally agree with you, Atria. Anybody else? Atira, sorry. Atira, my bad.
See, the trainer is supposed to be proactive. While doing the training, if he realizes, see, a lot of times what happens is that, for example, I'm giving an exercise or if I'm giving a situation, people are not able to react to that. He should be able to understand it and immediately, work on that. That the result should be changed at that time only. Now, a lot of time it happens is that the trainer, if he doesn't have material to put in, so what he do is he takes the feedback from other people who are understanding. There are always the training team, the people who are getting trained is a group of people. There are few people who understand things well and people who don't understand. So they take the help of people who understand it and make it more conclusive. So the others can understand well. So the way the training pace goes.
Yeah, I think yes. So, so what are you hinting at? So people, based on the feedback that you're saying that they're not prepared, and that's where they use the feedback from other sessions. Sorry, I missed that part, Ricky.
See, if, for example, I'm conducting a training or my trainer is conducting a training and he
Huh.
realizes that whatever point he wants to make is not getting through, he should have a second plan, and he can take that observation there and then only, that people are not getting it. So he has to take some other arrangement where he has to put that point across, because today it's not the time that he has to wait for another training to happen, because the people will go out and they'll go and they'll start working. So they should have something. There comes the proactiveness of the trainer only. Take the help of other people. See, always there are people who are, the group is always consist of people who are more experienced also. So what we do is we encash their experience and include that. So
Now I understood. Correct.
yes,
Got it.
so
So you're saying
whatever point
leverage.
he's making,
Correct.
he's able to convey that.
Got it. So you're saying there are participants, there are some senior or there are somebody in the audience, take their feedback as well to make that pivot. Got it. Yes. Pradeep, you have your hand raised.
Yes, Shubha. So I would suggest we take one step behind and go back to the needs analysis, or I call it as a performance consulting, because as trainers, we always go into the needs analysis session with the mindset of what I can offer rather than understanding what is the problem statement, right? So we propose solution even before understanding what is the problem statement, and there is where we falter. And we also say, this is what I have to offer. And when we design the training, we design it in a way basis on my need. And that no, it creates a gap what my audience needs. And we have tools like learner profiling or learner personas that can be used to understand and group the learners. right? So the question is, the pertinent question is starting with why. Why do they need the training? So we have to move from the mindset of a trainer to a consultant, right? So skill gap analysis, understanding the type of learners, their experiences, their skills, uh, what are they facing problem with? What is the metric? And how can I add value as a learning and development function to the business? So my CEO doesn't have to look at the vanity metrics like penetration, engagement, that's all fine. But the CEO asks, what are you bringing onto the table?
Got it. I think makes sense. Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you, Ricky. I think what you're all is making perfect sense, and I think we're all on the same page here. So I see something on the chat from Shivani. What is Shivani saying? I believe during session evaluation, facilitators assess understanding, address gaps, and reinforce knowledge transfer in real time. Perfect. So yes, it is extremely important. So start doing that. And that is on the immediate feedback mechanism. The other thing that we can do during training is observation and documentation. So assign designated observers or evaluators to attend training sessions, document observations. It could be somebody new from the team. It could be somebody senior. I'm just, I'm just giving ideas. So it's always good to have some manager go in as an observer, somebody from the business to share and check regarding participant engagement, trainer effectiveness, training materials suitability. So I think yes. So observation checklists or that also helps to systematically record qualitative data on participant behaviors, interactions, and learning outcomes. Do any of you use observation and documentation during the training program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so some of you do. Okay, good. So that's important. Then what else do we do? So incorporate interactive assessments. I think this most of us might be doing quiz or knowledge checks throughout the training sessions to gauge their understanding, retention of key concepts. Just say like after an hour, just say how much have you understood? Encourage participants to respond to those questions. Maybe give them a puzzle to solve, complete tasks collaboratively in real time. Give them a group, basically activities which will either it is group activity or individual activity, which will give you an understanding of how much they have understood. That is also important. I'm sure most of us would be doing it. Do we do it during the training, having these quiz, check, assessment? Anything apart from these which you do? Please feel free to share something different, new.
Ma'am, maintaining record of performances, numbers, everything for future references.
You maintain a database of the scores. How much did they score in
Yeah.
these assessments?
Yeah,
Yes.
and moreover, for more higher future roles, that will be giving you guidelines to decide how to call that person for higher job because you have a record of his or her performance. So if company wants or entity wants to keep it, that as per the record, as per the its importance or necessity.
Perfect. I think data maintenance is very important. And if you have been maintaining that, recording it, nothing like it. Because you never know how the data. Anybody else? Shubham, you want to share something?
Yeah, I was also sharing that on the day-to-day basis, we can have small quiz. There are certain platforms which offer you like you have to pay some amount, but then you can create your own quiz there. And quiz can be given even every day. On let's say you taught a topic in the last 5 minutes, you can have a small quiz where 5 to 7 questions are there, and at least it will help student to reflect. Also, you can ask students the questions and follow-up question. What did you learn today? Let's say like what is evaluation, what are different learning style, okay, what is there in this learning style? This can also be there to for evaluation in between the learning sessions.
Thank you for sharing. Did you all learn about the different methods of different activities to do in training last semester? Did you talk about World Cafe method? Did you was that part of your syllabus in the last semester?
Yes, ma'am.
It was covered.
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Yeah. So I use that, and I think
Experiential learning.
yeah, and I think that World Cafe method. Anybody who remembers what that is?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that? If you could, I don't know if I have the word right, but then yes.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it's like we'll be having small groups as if we sit in a cafe and having discussion with the topics, and then the team will be dispersed and they will be gathering into another group and discussing the same with others.
Yes. Thank you for rejogging our memory, but I use this quite a lot. It's been a while since I facilitated, but there was a time when I used to do a lot of facilitation in my career, and this helped. And I think this I learned during my ISTD days. So I use this tech if it's a 2 days or 3 days training program early in the morning when people are fresh. I do this so that people keep moving tables. It's an icebreaker. It also helps them talk about what they learned the previous day. So there can be different ways that you could do it, but having such things help you understand the learning, understanding level of the participants. It also helps you engage them. So you can try different stuff to do this. Yes, I think anybody else. Okay, I don't see anybody else would like to add anything before we move on.
Ma'am, in the same, we had a case study where the different groups were given different case studies, and they have to swap, like they have to, the group will be interchanged. Then they have to convey what are their individual case studies. So that was an effective way of sharing different case studies in that particular section, in one session.
Okay, very nice. So yes, and we can be innovative as much, we can. There was a time when I saw somebody using Cinderella's story for debriefing. It was very interesting. So you can be innovative. So they recreated Cinderella's story using what they learned in the training the previous day. So I think as trainers, we have that canvas in front of us, and for us to be able to draw and be as creative as possible. Okay, so then I think peer and group feedback is also very important. Did I speak about facilitator reflection? I don't think I did. So I think apart from participant engagement and with the analysis, it's also important that you encourage your team. If you have your facilitators, trainers, encourage them to reflect on their teaching strategies. Any questions? Sorry. So encourage your training team or facilitators to reflect on their teaching strategy, see what they felt about how the session went. See, as a trainer, it's very, you will know. You see that people are not responding, they are not reciprocating. You know how it is going. So it's time for self reflection. Even sometimes you don't need anybody else to tell you that things are going down south. You can make that pivot on your own. You will be able to help your trainers to reflect and see if things are not going well. It's more about acceptance. Sometimes it's our ego which doesn't allow us to accept that things are going south. So I think helping your trainers, or helping, if you are a trainer yourself, helping yourself to say that, to accept that sometimes things don't go well. It's important for us to learn and make that pivot. That acceptance as facilitators is also important. Peer and group feedback, facilitate peer-to-peer feedback, group discussions where participants can share their thoughts. They can share their insights, maybe before they go for lunch. Call them and say, how are things going with you? So I think these are some of the things that you could do to help gauge or assess a training program as it's happening. So this is during training evaluation. Or you could also do a feedback form. You could give them job aids, support materials in real time to address immediate learning needs. Sometimes we're talking about, now we spoke about World Cafe. What if people didn't know? So maybe I go and I find that link and I put it on the chat. So real time, I'm giving you some materials that's helping you. I might offer some personalized mentoring whatever assistance. So sometimes just-in-time support and resources also help. When you go that extra mile, that may not be part of the curriculum, but you go that extra mile, share that material with them, help them, that also helps. Any questions, any thoughts to share before we move on?
I had one question.
Yes.
You had mentioned about the facilitator evaluation being done through understanding from the trainees, right?
Mhm.
Can you throw more light on that?
Facilitators evaluation done through, can you just say that again, please?
You mentioned about the facilitator being evaluated by the trainee so that the course correction can be done.
Yes, so I spoke about two things. One is when you do the real-time feedback, where you put a poll and say, are you able to understand the concepts? So then you know that the training is not going well.
Okay, got it.
And then you make that pivot. So if you say that, then you say, you ask 2-3 questions, you do a poll, and then you get that, and then you'll make that pivot. So either it could be through the poll option if it's an online training, or you just raise up, or you could just do, because many a times people will not. If you make it anonymous, is when people will share. So just give them a form and say, fill this, no name, nothing, just leave it on the table when you've gone out for lunch. So they will tell you how their
But in this
experience
case,
has been
many
so
times,
far.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry to.
No, please go ahead.
The only question remains is that many times, don't you think it will be on a reaction level?
It is. So more than that, you are not asking how happy you are with the facilitator. It depends on what is the question that you're asking. Your question should be targeted to their understanding. See, you can't change the if somebody doesn't like the facilitator, you can't change the facilitator. So the questions you ask should be on how they have understood the concepts. If you see that they haven't understood the concepts, then it means you need to do a deep dive. You need to give more examples. So the way you frame the questions in that is very important. So don't keep it, are you happy with the training? No, that's a reaction level. But did you understand the concept 1 and 2? So did the activity help you understand it? Or so then you'll know whether they like the activity better or they liked whatever. So I'm just giving you random examples based on some assumptions, but keep the questions very specific to what the learner is learning and not generic to how the trainer is, how is the environment. That becomes a reaction level.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
It's easy in the classroom environment. When you talk about the online thing, how to ensure that? Because say there are number of participants are pretty high, and for example, in your case also, you can see us, so you can see our reaction. People who are not reacting, how will you ensure that they are getting the effectiveness of the training?
Oh, true. That's a very, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Maybe I didn't see it. Was
Ricky.
it Ricky? Yeah. That's a good question, Ricky. See, if you can only help those who want to be helped.
Okay.
You can't help everybody. If there are, you throw up, let's say you do anonymous forms. Let's say I create a Google form and I say do it. So if you are genuinely interested in your development, you will fill it. If you are not, then you are not filling that form. You are not participating in that poll, and you are not my audience also. So my audience is somebody who genuinely wants to learn, who wants to benefit from it. But if somebody has decided that they don't want to, it's just that they're attending the session for the sake of attending. I'm just giving you examples. So then you will not. So your focus will be those who really want to make an effort to learn.
Okay. Thanks.
Did that help?
Yes. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Wish I could switch on my camera. It's just that the network is playing around. So, okay, let's move on and end program evaluation. So I think this is something that most of us do, and evaluating the training at the end is essential to assess its overall effectiveness, to gather feedback from participants, to identify the areas of improvement. And there are different ways we do it. I think many of us use survey or questionnaire. It could be through various tools. It could be your inbuilt. Some do it on SharePoint. Some do it on Teams form, some do it on Google form, some have their own other customized way of doing it. But more or less, the intent is same. You include a mix of close-ended questions, open-ended questions to gather both quantitative data and qualitative data. Do we all do this?
Yes.
Yes, right? So most of us.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah. Then that is the reaction level. And I think this is where Kirkpatrick's first level reaction level also comes. This is mainly to gauge the reaction. Then we also do evaluation form. So this could be one is the reaction level where you understand, but you also do a form to understand how much their understanding was. If you did a pre-training evaluation saying, I know ABC, they might have said, I don't. Post-training, after the training you do another two same questions or similar questions where you will know they didn't know ABC, now they know ABCD and E. So that's the difference that you do. You distribute these surveys, or you this can be anonymous or need not be. Usually, the reaction level people prefer it to be, but if you are administering a proper structured survey to understand to check their understanding, then it doesn't need to be anonymous, because you are it depends. Having a candid response, whether you need a candid response or whether you need a proper thing that you can document and keep it saying that Shobha didn't know this, Shobha knew this. So if you want to compare what was Shobha's understanding before the program and after the program, then you would need to know Shobha's name. But if the objective is just to figure out how candid the feedback, you need candid feedback, then it can be anonymous. That's a decision you need to take. We usually utilize digital survey tools, paper-based forms, depending on the preference. My experience with things have been get people where when they are in the room or when they are in the session. Last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even before the session is coming to an end, we fill out, we put the QR code, we flash the QR code, we put printouts in the room of the QR code, or we give out the forms. Forms we have moved away. So it's usually the QR code that we encourage people to, because once they walk out of the room, it's very hard for us to get that feedback. So get them when they're in the room is my principle. So I prefer doing that. I'm not sure if it's the same with you all as well. But it's important that you get that. And more than, so many times reaction level helps you only for future. It's mainly for you to talk about saying that, yes, 4.5 was my feedback score. So that helps you tell your management that how successful this program was. It may not give you the actual data, but then it also depends on what kind of program. It was just a master class. It was just a conversation from somebody where there wasn't intense learning expected. It wasn't a 10 days learning program. In such cases, reaction level, that form helps. So that depends. Then I think you can use content relevance, instructor effectiveness, training material, overall experience. These are some of the categories in which you can have questions. You can use Likert scale questions, rating scales to quantify participant satisfaction levels. So there are different ways. I'm sure these forms these days give you those options. Anything else that you would like to share on capturing and program evaluation?
Uh, 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 may I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Kamna. So apart from the OBOs, which I shared earlier, this is only from a sharing perspective. So in outdoor trainings, we also do the final debrief. And in the final debrief, we ask participant, depends what age group, we give them the activity like river of life, or maybe like emotional graph, to just to evaluate themselves for those 10 days or 7 days, like how they were feeling earlier, during, and then before they leave. And after this activity where they are involved physically and emotionally, then we take them for the final feedback like self-evaluation questionnaire, OBOS. So this is only for the sharing perspective. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thank you for sharing. Yes, so that is the end program evaluation. Then we also do post-training evaluation. How many of us do this post-training evaluation?
We do that.
We
Yeah,
do
we
as
do.
well.
What do you do in post-training? Those of you, I heard a couple of you say we do. What do you do in post-training?
Maybe I can share. So
Sure.
just giving an example, what we are doing actually into a post training program. So we are running one of a certification program. So it's like you can say it's a journey program, which includes this 70, 20 and 10 rule. And especially for the hands-on part, which is almost like 70% of the overall program. So there we are actually focusing on the post training evaluation. So we have a, for example, there is an X product. On that particular product, there are certain competencies or skills that person need to have once he is into field after training program. So there is already a defined checklist is available. Then along with him there would be a certified assessor. So once the guy is ready with the training program, he learned on job and then he's ready for being assessed as well. Then there comes a role of the certified assessor who will be there along with him, and he will be eventually assessing him on the job as a part of his post training evaluation. So then he will say that okay, he's passed into it, he's failed or need improvement. So he will be performing, guy would be performing, and then person will be evaluating this on the job task. So that's one of the way of how we are doing, and majority of the program is that. And then once the overall that particular portion is done, once he finished the theoretical content, he finished the face-to-face training, he finished this job passport evaluation in the field, then it comes the overall assessment, which is also one of the post training evaluation, which is like a questionnaire. So almost like 100 questions and something like, so that whatever he has learned in last 1 or 2 years or 3 years as well. So there would be a final evaluation with regards to that as well as a theoretical one. So that's a normal cycle that we are following for sort of into one of the program as a
Okay.
post training evaluation.
Thanks for sharing that, Vikram. I think there was somebody else who wanted to share. Kamna?
Yeah, it's similar to the sharing actually. So we don't do it directly, but because we do training for the companies, so we keep in touch with the companies, and it will be similar what just shared being shared, that they do assessment for 3 months. So how they are doing it, whether there is improvement in their behavior, attitude, then directly it's gonna show up for the performance and productivity, and even the team bonding. So that's being done, and then being a third, you can say, stakeholder, we keep track of it. So when the same company or same participant they come next time, it's gonna help us to increase the quality of the training.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing. So evaluating the training after some time has passed since its completion is what we call as post-training evaluation. It can be after 30 days. So for some programs, we do 30, 60, 90. You evaluate after 30, you do it after 60, you do it after 90. It could be with direct questionnaire to the participants. It could be focus group discussions. It could be with their supervisors. It could be done in different ways. So for some programs, we've even done it after a year, saying that it has been a year. We check how much, whether if it's a leadership development program, we check how many of them got promoted. We do a survey with their managers saying in the past year, have you seen any significant change in your team member? We also do a direct survey with the participants saying, have you seen any change in yourself? Have you been using the concepts that you learned during this program? And we also put a refresher saying that this is what you've learned. When for the questionnaire that we send it to, we put an image saying that this is what your teammate would have learned. Do you see any of these skills? Do you see any of this being adapted? So So it's important that you do this because it helps you figure out what is the relevance. So the next time when you do it, you know whether to cover the same topics. If you see it's not happening, then you figure out why it's not happening. You ask pointed questions when you see that most of them have not been using it, then you ask why. If they've been using it, you know that it is good. So usually in Accenture, we have these journey-based programs that we do. So year on year, we have version 1, 2, 3. So different batches keep coming in. And that's where you make these changes, make that for the next batch. So there are these long-term objectives, you select evaluation metrics, you implement these assessments, you collect performance data as well. I told you about promotions. So then you measure the behavior change. Measuring behavior is very tough. It's not easy to measure. If it's a concept, you can always say, okay, I know, get it, and it's easier. But behavior, but any change in participants' behavior, attitude in the workplace, it's very slow. And with observation, the manager might be able to tell you. So that's where use observation, self-assessment, feedback from superiors, peers. Peers will also be a good judge of whether they see any such improvement or not. So we use all this to measure the behavior change, conduct follow-up interviews, engage stakeholders again, analyze long-term impact, and always report. I think I forgot mentioning the last time as well when we were talking of end of the training evaluation. Whatever findings you have, always report findings. Many a times we collect this feedback forms and it stays in that folder as response. We don't do anything with it. Make it a point to share it, good, bad, ugly, however it is. Share it with your stakeholders so that they know, and you also put yourself under that pressure that you will share it. If there's any change, next time you will bring that. If the score was 3, you will aim to make it 4 or 4.5 for the next. So share it with your stakeholders. Be very open about it. Don't keep the feedback forms in the folders just the way they are. Many a times for many of our programs, they just end up doing, people share those feedback, but we don't do anything with it. That shouldn't be. I think it's 11:35. I have to meet you again at 12. So I'll take a pause here and we'll continue at 12. Any thoughts? I think, Pratibha, you have your hands raised. So we'll listen to
Yes,
you
ma'am.
and then take a
Hello, ma'am. This side Pratibha. So we people are running a program for certification program for Lean Six Sigma plus behavioral. It's a combo training program for automobile industry. So here I would like to add some points what you told that really we want to inculcate that habit so that people can go for zero defect. So in this, during the session, we ask them to take a project that in which area you want to implement this Lean Six Sigma basically. So during that 2 days training program, offline training program, we ask them that you need to choose right away, and it should not be generic that you will improve the process or like this. You need to take one step that you need to if any process is taking 5 steps, you need to lean it. You have to decrease the movement of the processes, and right away only after choosing the project, you need to the day after tomorrow only you need to implement this particular program in your process. So it goes like this. So
Good. So
basically,
you
it
are
is
putting,
only for
you're making them
automobile.
accountable.
Yes, right.
Thank you for sharing, Pratibha. With this, we come to the end of this class. I'll again meet you at 12. Thank you so much, and we'll meet again at 12. Bye-bye, everyone. Hopefully with better network connectivity.
Bye.
I have a
Thank you.
question.
Yes.
Just want to ask, not related to the topics, how long the session will be from 12?
12 to 1:30.
All right. Thank you.
I see one more hand raised. Anybody else with a question? Okay. Thank you so much. Then I'll meet you all at 12.